I mean, really, we'll open it up for questions if you have any.
And I do have some questions that were emailed to me, so I can go ahead and I can start with one of those.
Sure.
So one of the first ones was on the 2019 master plan, plot F is listed as a proposed building site for sometime after 2029. And so the question was, why was that listed?
Yeah, when we went through and did the master planning, we looked at buildings we thought were in the near term within 10 years. And one thing about a master plan is that's our best shot at where we're gonna go. You know, if all of a sudden we get a donor that would come in and say, hey, there's $25 million to go build a new dormitory, well, it would all of a sudden get moved up into the front. So the fact that it was, we moved it after 10 was not as important as what it was that we had looked at that and considered that one of the spots that we could build on campus. So, you know, we know that we can't build everything at once, and so we tried to time phase things out. And so we moved that spot into the 10-year plus, but it really depends on demand and funding. And Gerald, any?
I mean, basically, a lot of work has come up on this, is that the cost of the site. So that was why we went back to the master plan and went through every site to find what would work best, so.
I'm just gonna set the audio over here.
Oh, okay, yeah. In hindsight, it'd been great if we'd left it in the original piece and not moved it to the 10 plus, but that's what happened.
All right. Any questions from any of you guys in the audience? If not, I can move on to another question that was emailed to me.
Actually, I haven't thought of it before. So after the building is finished, do either of you know how quickly we have to remove the old one so that then campus could give input of what they want to see in that site?
Yeah, I mean, we want to do it right away.
Right away.
All right, we've been authorized for up to $1 million in expenses to knock it down. What we have to do though, the real challenge we have is the amount of maintenance and repair money we get is based on the square footage we have. And so when we got money for this building, we promised we'd get rid of the old building because we didn't want to double dip on maintenance and repair money. So we said we would take it down. I don't know, time frame, any thoughts?
We don't get any more, because this just happened this week, when we add square footage to campus, we don't get any more maintenance and repair dollars for each of those square foot that's added. So since we already had such an issue with maintaining the MI building, and
Yeah.
if we replace, that's why.
What's the amount of deferred maintenance on that building?
It's over 20 million, it's probably
Yeah,
somewhere
so
around 24.
if we went back and repaired the old building, there's $20 million in costs that we'd have to put into it just to bring it back up, which would mean we would have a renovated old building, which wouldn't be much different.
And the cost, which it's now probably, it was when they, for a full renovation of it was back in, I don't know, quite a few years ago, it was 27, and I would add 6 million probably to that number when we did that time.
Yeah, when we first started this, or at least when I first got here, I think the new building was 34 million was the estimate. The estimate to renovate the old building was 27 or 28 million dollars, so.
So probably a year and a half, 2 years from now, that will be finished and that will come down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And that's when campus can kind of share what they'd like to see there.
Yeah. And so we do have it on the, it's on the master plan as well, what happens once that building goes away. And just same with the music building, it's listed on the master plan. At some point, if the music building would go away and we'd build a new music venue, what could we put where the old music building is? So we tried to think as going forward where we might put buildings.
Another question that I had that kind of goes off that a little bit is someone was wondering if there were any plans to mitigate road noise from St. Joe if it is turned into a green space.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I'd like to see some trees and grass and what can we do to knock down that sound that comes in that direction. And I know that even Nucor, as we've talked to them, they've said, hey, what could we do to maybe help make sure that that green space is really useful and something that people want to make use of. So I think that as we go forward, that would be put into the plans.
Mentioned at the Student Senate meeting last night, there was talk of using a different tree fund to fund the building of new trees. Where would that money come from to replace those trees?
I don't know what
Yeah, I'm not familiar. What's
We
it?
do have a tree fund from Student Association that we put forth.
Okay.
Would that be used for the new trees?
Well, is there a landscaping? Yeah.
Cody,
I mean, there's landscaping on the building.
Yeah.
On the building, there will be landscaping.
So this came up, in the spring, we allocated 25,000 to the tree fund, but it never got officially used, so that's kind of why it came up, because we didn't have money moved over. If my understanding is correct, that tree fund here, that's normally for Arbor Day?
We
If I'm not
use it
mistaken.
for that, and I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot of money too for trees. As far as how many when it comes to trees, we try to plant the number that we can make sure that we try to keep alive. Because they do take watering multiple times a day, and that's actually going out physically and watering them. So that's why we try to make sure that that money gets used wisely and not. And I guess that would be up to you all, if you don't want to see that fund used at all for replacement for these trees. But the trees will be replaced, around campus, so.
I think kind of the sentiment on, at least that I picked up on student senate was opening that tree fund up for help replace some of the trees that were lost.
Sure.
And we've already got plans for, I think we've got at least a couple, and we planted one for the memorial just this fall, and then we would like to do several more for the spring, if not a few more, since we have had this happen too, so.
All right, another question that a student has was, why couldn't construction have started behind the Paleo building and fundraising continued for the extra $2 million?
Yeah, if you talk to our Center for Alumni Relations and Advancement, they're the ones that are raising the $12 million. They've raised 10 so far, and even the 12 is a push. I don't think that we could probably get to 14. It's we're working hard just to get to 12.
And that number's not 2 million anymore, we need 7.8, and we're still looking at going back for 4 million
Yeah.
to finish everything.
Yeah, so that's, alumni, and obviously Nucor was nice enough to put 5 million in, but, a lot of that, what we're asking for are coming from other companies and alumni, and we've been working at raising funds for a long time for this building, and we feel pretty successful that we've gotten to 10, so we're down to that push to make sure we can get that final 2 million. It's a fair question.
All right, any more questions from the audience?
What'll be the total square footage of the new line?
I was thinking 67, is that right?
It's like 63.8 or 68.3. I'm probably mixing those numbers, but we're
Mid-60s.
mid-60s. I don't have it sitting in front of us.
Yeah.
Any more questions right now from the audience? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and ask another question then. So where are your construction/air quality permits by the Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources available to view? They said they had concerns and have been hearing complaints of poor air quality, and they would like to see those permits.
So all of those would be held by Skull. They're responsible for all of that. I can look into that if they had to have something for this. Sometimes on state property, it works a little differently, but Skull Construction would have to do all permitting for the project. So I can find out more. And I don't know if you noticed, they have been watering the site. That's typically what they do on a construction site when it's really dry like this. They'll have to go water it to just keep down that dust. Our state engineer, actually, because we have a camera on the site, and our state engineer noticed this just 2 days ago and said, hey, Skull, make sure you're watering. So it is something that we do proactively look at.
So many students are frustrated because they feel they'll never use the building or will really benefit them. Doesn't match their major. It's just kind of a disruption to campus without benefiting them. So what message would you like to give them?
Well, I guess that we don't build the buildings for one specific major. We have people take classes in a lot of different buildings, and so, you might not be in a math major, but you're probably taking classes in McLaurie. And we have central scheduling for all of our classrooms, so we don't know there's going to be an MI class in there. It could be something else in the classroom. So, yeah.
And there is a large classroom going into that space that will be used by
I'm not one to answer that question, really, I'm out of my pay grade, but everything going on at MI and everything going on campus is more multidisciplinary than ever. I mean, you talk about robotics and mining, or ground scanning radar and paleo. I mean, there's really cool stuff happening around MI that involves everybody. So I think this has potential to benefit the entire campus, and even alumni down the road. When you come back in 10 years, even if you're not going to benefit the building, you might find resources in the building that can help wherever you're at in your career.
There is equipment that's testing equipment going in the building that's used by pretty much, I would say, every department. EMES
Yeah.
uses probably every department, so.
Scanning electron microscope is
Yeah.
valuable to every department.
The
E
SEM.
Remind me what EMES stands for?
The engineering mining experiment station.
Okay, and that's got all the big equipment, all the fancy stuff in it.
So any research students on campus use those facilities as well.
All right. Another question. Someone said, I saw an excavator yesterday parked on top of a mound of loose dirt. How are you staying compliant with OSHA regulations?
Again, Skull is very, I mean, they were actually, so you might have seen the flagpole that was getting taken down, and they called the contractor that we have doing that is different than the contractor we have on site. So I can just let you know that Skull said, hey, I don't think they're doing everything right. So they've been working through our project manager, Michael Van Elter, on that. So we were very conscious of that, but Skull is a very safety-oriented company, so.
And appreciate, knowing if somebody's got a concern about safety, we definitely want to know about it.
You can talk to us over at facilities, stop in and say, hey, I saw this, because those things will get reported out. You all are going into, might be in a position someday where you're having to look at some of this. I mean, safety's my background for quite a few years too, so if we're seeing something unsafe, report it.
Yeah, definitely.
Over the facilities though.
Yeah.
Were they chosen as the contractor just based off having a low bid solely?
They were not.
Okay.
This is a construction manager at risk project, and so we were actually able to go out and just solicit bids, or not solicit bids, solicit proposals. And we went through those and graded those through the building committee process, which is has quite a few different members on that team, and then they were selected that way.
That would consider safety too, wouldn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
I kind of had a question about the overarching project. I'm looking through the master plan here. I'm not seeing anything, and I might be missing it. I'm not seeing anything adding on to student dormitories. I was curious if that has a spot there, because I remember again at the beginning of this year, and even at the end of last year over the summer, a lot of people seem to be very unhappy with the living situation.
Yeah. And
I didn't know if there was anything changing at Mines, whether we accept fewer students or if there were more dorms, or if there was anything in that.
It's a tough question. It's actually an interesting and very pertinent question, especially with the lack of housing in Rapid City right now, with so many people moving in. Dean Joe is on the housing workforce with Elevate Rapid City, was a local economic development group to figure out what to do. I think on campus we have 1,083 beds, if I remember correctly. I think in the other 4 years I've been here, we've been at 90% capacity. This is the first time we've ever been full. And so is that the trend going forward? I don't know. So that's a good question. I don't have any plans immediately to build another dorm, but Hanny Shaffey has built one on the corner of Kansas City and East Boulevard. There's one right next to Dakota Bank on St. Joe. We think where all these houses have been knocked down on Kansas City Street is going to be an apartment complex coming in there. The foundation, Kara, is looking at what they could do for housing. So there's a lot of discussions on housing moving forward. I don't know, Dean Joe, any follow-up answers to that?
Yeah, I can add on to that. So there's 3 really large apartment complexes, all at various stages of being built right now. So in 2 years, we won't probably be talking about this problem anymore. We kind of need to get through this next year or two, though. And of course, our housing office will be working with students. This year, some of our sophomores who would usually be required to live on campus, if they had a extended family member, aunt, uncle, grandmother, we allow them to leave on campus so that we had some more beds. So we'll continue to get creative. We'll have solutions. But if any of you see anything or want to suggest anything, please let us know.
So
you're not going to be, there's no plans to add more beds at mines, but you are opening off-campus living, supposedly more people, and then there's more apartments going up campuses.
We're hoping that, Dr. Spindle and I both been at other universities where, like the apartment complexes, let's say you've got 2 people in a complex, the lease is with you individually, so that if you left, your roommate wouldn't have to pay both rents. It would just be, it's almost like a dorm being sponsored by an outside apartment complex. And so we're hoping some of these that come up will look at that for our students. So it's an ongoing concern, definitely.
And also, Student Senate just recently created a housing committee to address that in students as well as the administration.
Yeah, so that's that same task force, so we do have multiple student voices on that. But again, Cooper, you can.
I was just curious, I'm going over the master plan.
Yep.
And I remember that there's a lot of money being spent on this. And, a lot of people are kind of like, why are we not doing it, on housing, which, the argument was brought up that this kind of only affects the MIs. I don't necessarily agree with that, but, housing definitely affects everybody.
Yeah.
So I was just curious.
And then, like Rocker 1, Rocker 2, we don't actually own those. We rent both of those buildings. Which is kind of why you have a different internet service over there, and maintenance is not done by us, it's done by the third-party owner of the building.
Are you guys generally content with that relationship, or do you want to do something different in the future?
Sure, we'd like to own it. We're actually in discussions right now. Could we buy those buildings from the owner, or do we need to do an extended lease? And if we're gonna lease, we'd like to take over maintenance and take over the internet service. And so we're actually in the middle of it. Dr. Spindle's working with the owner right now to see what we can come to for an agreement. That's part of the challenge we have with that kind of thing is the price tag. The state doesn't put money, that's considered an auxiliary because because we charge rent and then put it back into the payment. The state won't help with that at all. So you have to find a way to make it cost effective. And right now, real estate is so expensive, not only here, everywhere in the nation, it seems.
I know some students were concerned. They were hearing that Nucor was pulling funding for the camp teams. They were just curious if that was something that's actually happening.
Dr. Keller.
That's a rumor, false.
Okay.
Dr. Keller is a Nucor professor here on campus and deals with them all the time. I've had nothing but good relationships with the corporate office in Charlotte, and I think they're very happy moving forward. I think they feel like the discussions, they're happy to see we're having discussions like this with concerns on the building.
I will say, though, there's a couple requests of Nucor that I've paused myself because the relationship has been tarnished by all of this. To answer your question, Nucor hires metallurgists, industrial engineers, civil engineers, mechanical, computer science, computer engineering, material science, electrical engineering, business management and technology, chemical engineering, geological engineering. They had nothing to do with siting the building. They did nothing but give a gift. I met with Nucor Steel in 2008 when they gave us the first $1 million gift, and I said, we're going to have to draw up a memorandum of understanding, all this, and they said, no, we trust you. That trust has been broken. And I'm really worried about this group of students and students coming in that may not get these opportunities.
But no, we've heard nothing about pulling funding of any kind.
Dr. Keller, is there a chance that we could get email possibly out to the student population or to teams involved in camp addressing that rumor? Because at camp meetings earlier this week, there were faculty involved with camp that actually propagated that rumor as well and said that they've been hearing it as well and thought that it could possibly be happening.
I'm in communication with the director about that, but it's entirely false.
Yeah, I reached through the provost, and I know the provost reached out to the camp director and associate director to confirm that with them, to let them know as well. Unfortunate that rumors like that are going.
Well, and you can imagine from Nucor's standpoint, They're a Fortune 100 company, publicly traded. And when their brand is being put out there in anonymous forums and really disgusting things being said about them, that I'm very worried about our relationship with them because of what's happened. But that's any rumor about them pulling support is false. I'm trying my best to keep the relationship healthy for you all.
Is there anything that students can do to kind of help?
Well, don't email the corporate office, number one. You know, they got more student emails at the corporate office than Dr. Rankin did. And I know there's probably a means to the end, but boy, we've got to repair the relationship. And I don't know that what we can do at this point other than produce good students. You know, they're the 4th largest employer of our students. They give roughly $40,000 a year to student groups in athletics, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, camp, WISE, blacksmithing, Society of Asian Science Engineers, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, the Casting Club, Industrial Engineering, and the National Society of Black Engineers.
I guess the public service announcement I would make that I made to the Greek Council last night is, you know, be sure you're letting people know that if you're using social media, Yik Yak and things like that, that is not anonymous. You know, the police department contacts us, the FBI will reach out to us and say, hey, you've got an issue on campus. And so if you think they're anonymous, they're not anonymous. And it's bad enough when the police, the FBI get involved. If your future employer sees posts like that, you don't want to jeopardize a career you might have. So just, you know, be wise in your use of social media.
Some students were also wondering about the committee that was made up to help make these plans. They're wondering how those students that were on it were chosen and what percentage of the student body were involved in the decision.
So we used student association as and the dean of students at that time reached out to student association and asked for, because that should be a good cross-section of students as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did have open sessions for anybody to be involved in input.
Yeah, we invited community, we invited alumni, we invited students. It was really an open call. Anybody wanted to come and provide input, we're welcome to. So there was no cap on the number that could be involved. I don't know if I put it in the one email, but the 2 positive comments I heard that actually are, one of them is in the master plan, is the quad is too big and it doesn't get used very much. So the quad would be a great place for a building. And the other was, if you put a building in a quad, I don't have to walk so far between classes, were the positive comments from student groups in addition to other things. So, you know, we did get positive responses back about putting a building there when we did the open forum.
Did you have a question?
Oh, yeah. So I know something that I personally pride myself on attending the schools that I was able to or hopefully, I guess it was one more semester, I was able to pay for it in all cash. So with the additional funding that's required for this building, will that impact student fees or tuition at all?
Yeah, no, fair question. No, this won't impact the tuition.
That's coming from overhead, right? So state or tuition fee dollars that are already coming in.
I'm gonna.
So, I mean, most of it's set aside.
Yeah.
The amount we have to bond would come from an overhead to pay for it. But we are still trying to actively go back to the legislature for additional to hopefully reduce that even further.
So yeah, it came out of money that we have gotten from our research overhead fund, which can be used for whatever the university needs. So we have set it aside over time. And that's what we use it for.
I asked the same question. And more just to make sure that it's set aside. It is setting aside. And it's for this building.
Yep.
So.
The tuition was held flat this year. It did not get increased from last year, and if the legislature listens to our request from the systems office, we're hoping to not have a tuition increase next year.
One other question. For events that use the quad or the current quad at a large capacity, for example, the President's Picnic.
Yeah.
What's your solution for, I guess, rearranging that now that the Nucor building is on active quad?
Yeah, I think, you know, part of it'll be the fence that's up for the 18 months to 2 years. You know, obviously it's fenced off for safety. You know, once that's done, you can see the footprint actually still leaves a lot of the quad there usable, you know, so that red spot is actually the architect. I know there were some questions about the architect's dimensions, so we got that red box from the architects to be able to put it on that map. But there'll be a lot left. But for 2 years or a year and a half, whatever it turns out to be, we'll reconfigure how we do the President's Picnic and things of that nature, like the org fairs and things of that nature. I'm not even sure the org fairs went up in that area, did they? They kind of stayed on the main horizontal. So. Down the one by classroom building?
Yeah.
Yeah, over by the library, so we'll do that, yeah.
I just have one more question here. Was the campus master plan updated when the decision to move the building was made?
So that takes a little bit longer than just going, because the architect does that. I actually have that out to an architect right now, and they're looking at doing some of the work for us as they have time, because they're working on another project for us. But it is in the plans, but again, we're trying to make sure everything's solidified, done, looking at what else has been done to do the update. Yep.
You know, we don't know what the bids will come in, but when we did the full-blown master plan, it ran about $137,000 to do that master planning last time.
Actually, I had another question, kind of mostly related. So it was originally supposed to be 4 stories, if I'm not mistaken. Is it going to be built in such a way that a 4th story can be added in the future, or no? It's just kind of, okay.
No. That is a rumor about almost every building on this campus, that you can add a story to it, and I have not found one that I can
Yeah.
I have not found one that I can actually say that's true.
I've heard EEP, but I don't.
So I'll take that rumor off of that.
I did want to go back to the committee discussion. Sometimes we throw out, there's a building committee has approved this, the building committee has approved this. This is actually a Board of Regents committee. So the executive director of the Board of Regents is on it, one of the regents is on it, the state engineer is on it, I'm on it. Are there other voting members? Just the 4 of us. So we're the 4 voting members on that building committee. And every building project on a campus in the state has a building committee like that.
Awesome. Well, I did not get any other questions from these students, so if anyone else has any final questions.
I don't have a question, but I just want to reiterate something that Mr. Ray said here, and that is, you know, we did a survey of employers that come to employ students a few years ago, and 40% of those companies were mineral industry companies. And so this is a good thing for the campus, and it's really, you know, you guys don't live in the building like I do, but it really is needed. I mean, it really is needed, and it's just going to be a good thing for the campus. So I hope you can feel good about it. And anyway, that's all I wanted to say. It's going to have a bigger impact than just geology, metallurgy, and mining.
And to kind of show you how bad that building has been. I mean, the urinal's fallen off the wall in one of the men's restrooms, and some of the heavy equipment's broken through the floor in the bottom area. And, you know, it's got individual.
We just had Steam Link Friday. I mean, it's like weekly there's something that's really, you know, because we deferred all the maintenance, like Geraldine said, and so it really is needed.
What was your temperature in your office last year during winter?
55 degrees.
So.
It's definitely needs some major overhaul, so, yeah, as far as a new building to put everybody in.
But I appreciate your coming out here to, another question?
Yes, you can finish up with.
Well, I just was gonna thank everybody for coming out and your interest in this project and how this, these kind of activities move forward.
Okay, so the question we got is, are you guys able to talk more about the tearing down of the trees? How much greenery do you plan to replace, and will you be putting trees in other places like Founders Park?
Yeah, I think that was the conversation we had in one of the first questions, I think, but I don't have the answer to that, but.
And I would say that if student association and students want to have some input into some locations that we might want trees, we're absolutely up for that. Every year when we do the planting for Arbor Day, we look at and get student association or other groups involved and, you know, where they'd like to see it. And, you know, a lot of times they defer to us to figure out where we've had one die or, you know, where we see that there's need. Because the other thing too is that we do like to have some spaces that are a little bit open so that you can play football or, you know, frisbee or whatever you want to do. So, you know, there's a balance there to make sure that we get them in the right spots so that we're not taking away from space that you all would like to have to be able to do other things, so.
And that 25,000 we were talking about before, that happened last year. So that money's already in the tree fund, that's ready to.
Yeah, so there's nothing else that needs to be done.
Go ahead.
Back to the social media, I was just curious, have there been any, like, I guess, security things that have actually been manifested more than just like people typing?
I will say yes, but I won't go any further than that.
Is there any, I know in one of your emails you said that they're gonna move, the school's gonna move the memorials or whatever that had been where it's already torn up. Is there any information on where or when that's gonna happen?
I know Theta Talk came in and cut down their tree so that they could make a paddle or something and pulled up the 2 plaques they had, but I don't know where they're
We
going.
planted a new tree over by the hexagon bench, that's the axe bench by Seebeck. And we have the stones that need to set outside there. There's a line that's gonna run through there still with this construction project, so I had just been waiting a little bit to make sure that I totally understand where that's going, so I don't cause any more issue with putting those in there. We are still looking at the Grease Plaza. We were planning to put it by Paleo up in that little seating area, but we're kind of continuing to look at what's around the MI building because there was some ideas for that as well. Other than that, the flagpole's moving, and there were some dinosaurs. Everything's been pulled up, and the time capsule we're not moving, so they're supposed to work around that. So. But we could definitely get a little more information on it. That would help on
Are these events going to adjust the way you conduct a new building construction in the future?
Well, I guess what I would say that we probably need to continue to work on is how we communicate.
Sure.
You know, because we felt like we had gotten input from all of the constituent parties, but when we made that change, it's obvious everybody didn't get the word that we were doing this. So I think that's where we have to work, and we're definitely open to suggestions. You know, we put out that email out of my office, you know, every other week, but I don't know how much, Mike could probably tell me how many people read it, but you know, if there are other ways we need to put out information on things like this, please let us know. Happy to work with you on that.
And when it comes to buildings, everything's available because it has to go through so many steps of the Board of Regents. That's all out on the Board of Regents website for building committees and everything else too, just so if you're ever interested in trying to look through all that, it is out there. There's a lot of hoops that we go through on the whole building project.
I think we don't have a new building, anything on the near future that I can think of, unless, like I say, somebody comes in with, you know, $25 million and says, hey, we'd like a building. But the incubator we just purchased about a week ago, and so we're renovating that. That's going to be a research space up there, so that's going to be happening. And in Surbeck, we're looking at renovating that. We want to put admissions, so expand it out towards the parking lot and expand it out towards the road, and put a conferencing area in with like 4 classroom, dining area, lecture type places with air walls, so that you can either have the whole thing big or break it up into 4 smaller classrooms. So those are kind of the 2 that are on the nearest horizon. And Surbeck is is an auxiliary, so the state doesn't give us money for that, so we have to go out and fundraise that. I think we're looking at probably $7 to $8 million total, and we're at 3 right now. So, you know, we've got a ways to go. And same with the incubator, the Ascent Innovation. We're looking at probably $2 million to renovate that, and we're in the middle of fundraising for that as well. So it's there's a lot of fundraising going on, trying to make sure we've got a quality looking campus.
On that green space question, we did do a ribbon cutting on the trail last week that's 3 miles long. You can thank Jaden Duder, did tremendous work, and we got Game Fish and Parks funding to build it. So that's a new green space resource for you all.
How much was the incubator purchased?
5 1/4. The state did give us that money. 5 1/4 million, that is. Which is good. That adds 40,000 square feet. That almost doubles some of the research space and allows us to make some moves in other places.
And when do you think the renovations will be complete?
Once we get the money,
Oh, that's right.
what would you say after that, Gerald?
Usually we'll have like at least a 6 to 9 month period of design time, and then depending on how big, maybe I don't know if it'll be a year, might be a year project, maybe 9 months. Until we can actually have some planning done on it, or doing that.
But what we'll do, make some moves. The research office will move out of the basement of O'Hara. It will go up to the incubator. The grad office will move out of Seebeck and move into O'Hara. Marketing and communications at some point will move out of that trailer house, that modular, and move into O'Hara. So we've got things going on. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I'm sure I appreciate you coming. Well, thank you all for coming. If anyone has any other questions about anything Senate related, there's senators here. You can go to them. Good to go. Thank you for coming.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Oh, here's your phone.